over and around the start time today.
Okay, I'll go.
I say 10 minutes.
See? I'll go get
Food
food.
would be a little slow this morning.
Wonder how the dance party went.
I don't know. Were you at the dance party last night?
Sorry?
Were you at the dance party last
I
night?
was.
Was it good?
It was a good time.
Everybody
The
had
kids
fun?
had the most fun.
Oh, of course.
Glow sticks galore. Yeah, it was a good time.
No, that's great.
Oh, I gotta slide back into my fight tonight.
So actually, I'm giving the talk here this week.
Oh, okay.
Is there anything I need to just come to it when she's finishing up?
Are you the one that's doing a little dance on stage?
Daddy went that way. If he wants it.
If you want, I can get it all lined up down. We can just come by me before we start and turn on the transmitter.
Whatever's
Yeah.
easiest, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And all wired up. And when it's seems easy to have that done, you sure?
Oh, yeah.
And go ahead and put
This
it
is
away.
not like you got it on our laptop.
I was judging his beats in Michigan.
Well, I verified it wrong.
Please don't say boo to me. I just pictured like having the Zoom up, I mean the YouTube channel up because I'm moderating the chat. And see people like throwing tomatoes, like virtual tomatoes.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
On the Wi-Fi. Okay. Something there.
Strap that to the side.
Are they?
And then, yeah, just come by and see me.
Do that kind of.
What's that? Yeah. Yeah.
Yesterday I had like the angry mom. I've already said this twice.
Yeah. So I do that.
Better?
Oh, okay. So that you know that.
You know what, I think it's the top of it. That's, because the putting the stars up, yeah, but the extender part is over.
Life size. I thought I could shoot my house.
Let's not worry about it.
We're selling kids over this. Like your nails.
It's pretty square with the front edge of the stage.
Yeah, it's just, the top of it is tilted a little. That extendo part.
No, it's still the same. Yeah, it's like hanging out with like little like that's what it feels like. For sure. Like who's gonna throw up? We don't know. Why did you? Not sure.
That help any?
Yes, that's better, thank you.
It's got those little roller casters on it, and one is forward and one is back.
Oh,
So it's doing the same way.
that's what does it.
Just make sure you guys are touching it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's very nice.
Is it a holding macro?
Holy mackerel. Only on Sundays.
Oh, I like the traffic coming over this morning.
Yeah, it's better. I tell you what I like is working this close to home. Just a straight shot out. I'm just like 5 miles away. What a change. Takes me 8 to a little 5
You're both on the other side now.
So you get the drive that I usually do when we do studio stuff.
Yeah, I'm basically 470 or 45 to 45.
I'm 4-7, yeah, I'm 4-7 hour run. Yeah, there's probably only
Get the tour of Denver.
10 minutes, 15 minutes between us. Right.
Yeah.
What? What?
You lost the Swede or something.
What?
Did you see that?
No.
I did.
No one.
Did you step on the cable? It just happened.
Did it flicker? Oh, John, I bet it was your laptop.
It dropped entirely.
Mm-hmm. No? You don't need a new battery in that clicker, do you?
Sorry.
New battery in the clicker?
No, it's good. If I hadn't already committed to 10, Terry, I'd say 15 now.
Yeah. There's not a lot of people in line for breakfast either. Oh, yeah, right for the big wins over Denver. Wings of Denver, whatever that museum is.
Yeah.
So,
No, the Rockets.
Wings over the Rockies. Was it?
Yeah, it was Whiskey Expo. Yeah, that's it. Did you? Yeah, no, afterwards we sat around a little bit with those guys. I had a blast. Maybe you drank too much.
Yeah.
Trash everywhere.
That means this is what they see. Huh?
So you have my source? And then, we'll put slides in there from Hannah, which I'm gonna pass them over to her.
There are two number ones. Pfalzer? Oh, Pfalzer.
Yeah, great. Where's everyone? Are you here yelling at me?
I was yelling at you.
Oh.
message work? Did it look like an email that said secure message and okay, that's fine. So I thought that might be the case. I'll figure out how to do it. I made the list of people. I'm gonna send you a big list of people and could. I think about 75% of them are in Simon's, and there's some that I think probably just didn't know that they were signed up. I'm gonna send you more people than you'll have in your data set.
When you told me this, did you pretend to be arguing with her or
To be a little bit of a pain for you, but I think some people just forget that they've signed up, or which platform they're on, like if they're on so if they're on Simon's or if they're on ours or whatever. But I have the list for you. Now I'll just figure out who's signed up.
It's not so bad because we'll just.
Well, you're gonna have to go see a person's name and then put
Yeah, like ideally, and you don't actually have to do this because I can just do it myself. Whatever's easiest for you. Actually, no, it doesn't even matter what I was about to say. Because I realized if you had the whole name of the set, I could just separate it out by first and last name, just like applicable. So the only it's actually quite easy for us to do this. So it's like slightly manual work. It takes a little bit of time. It's just a matter of getting the list and making sure everything matches. Because I'm a little bit like, I'm always like, did I match it right?
okay. The other thing is controls, like kids, siblings that donate, they don't do the Vineland, do they? Or does the same stuff populate for them as their sick sister or something?
Most family members are not getting a ton of data. We're mostly assigned for affective care.
Okay.
And that's a little bit on siblings and parents, but yeah.
Still taking your red eye out?
Yeah. I don't even know. I might be canceled. I don't know. I got this weird message I just decided not to even really read, being like, something, like, check in about your flight, because there might be information. I was like, does that mean there is information?
I looked this morning and most of the flights were going out.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to deal with that later. After I get this done.
Oh, I'm ready, guys. Oh, hi. Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. Yeah. Good morning. Okay. We're going to get started. We're already off schedule. Okay. All right, we can make this up. Okay, welcome. Hope everyone got some sleep. Okay. One last final thank you to our sponsors. All right, I'm just going to go through a few more reminders. Simon's Searchlight, I think a lot of you guys already gave blood yesterday, so kudos to all of you who did that. Thank you very much. Super helpful and important. But they are still collecting samples this morning, so if you missed it, you have time. And then another plug for our Caregiver Priority Survey. The flyers in your folder. We're going to be putting it on social media probably today, this afternoon, and then we'll be emailing it out as well. So you're going to get inundated with reminders to take this survey. And then, oh, this is a fun surprise. I didn't remember what my slides were. So I threw a couple memes in here that spoke to me. So this one I thought maybe it's not relevant to all of you, but this is pretty much my life in a nutshell. There's just a lot of things that I don't tell people that don't also have a GRIN2B child or a child of a disability. There's just a lot of things I don't tell people, and that is what it is. So if you relate to this, yes, I feel you. And I have no solution for it. Just to say that we're all in the same boat. And then this one I really liked. This is how I feel like I felt this weekend. It's just really a pleasure to be around people who just get it. And no one, I mean, my child is not here, but if she were here, I would not worry about anyone looking at her like, what's that kid doing? What's wrong with her? Why is she doing that? You all would just know, oh, she's got GRIN2B. So it's been lovely seeing all your children running around, having fun, and it's just been a pleasure. And I still feel like I haven't met a lot of you, so, and maybe you're thinking I'm too busy, but please come see me. I don't want you to leave without having met me, so I want to meet all of you. Okay. Oh, and then this slide was put together after our strategic research plan, our strategic, we worked with, why can't I think of the name? Consultant, that's the word, who helped us put the strategic research plan together. And I don't know if you all remember, but we had put out a survey for you guys to complete that was going to help us work on the plan. And so this is one of the questions that you all were asked. When you first received the diagnosis, what do you wish your provider told you about GRIN2B that would have been helpful at the time? And so she built this word cloud based on all of your answers, and then she shared it with us at our meeting where we were developing the plan. And I was just really, really struck by this anything in the middle. That here now, 10 years after we got nothing, when my daughter got diagnosed, people are still not getting anything. So that made me feel really sad and a little discouraged, to be honest. So I just wanted to share that with you because I just thought that was like a real stark reminder that there's still a lot of work to do. And, you know, we're trying to chip away at things a little bit at a time, but obviously we always need more help. We need more people to get involved. And I know it's overwhelming, and I'm not asking you to, you know, make this your full-time job, but any little bit that everyone in this room could do will add up to a lot. Okay, so then real quick, I wanted to go over what our goals are for the future. So we finished our strategic plan in November of last year, and we've been slowly working through action items, and so some of them got saved for hiring Alyssa. So we have a bunch more to work through now that Alyssa's on our team. And we're still coordinating these additional centers of excellence around the United States, but unfortunately that is a very complicated process. Each hospital is very different, and it took like, I want to say 2 years of coordination for Colorado. So, oh no, did I do that? Oh, okay. No, I can see my monitor. I'll just go off my monitor. You don't have to see the slide. We are also working on a welcome packet to support newly diagnosed families, and we have been working on this packet for like, what, did I lose? Oh, there she is, Anna. We've been working on this packet for, I don't know, a good year and a half, I want to say. But it's finally close. And I think Alyssa will be talking about that, right, Alyssa, when you go? Are you talking about the welcome packet? Yeah, okay. She'll talk about it a little bit more. We're also putting together a volunteer guidebook. Our intern has been working on it, and then now Alyssa is also working with her on that. So all of that is coming soon. We really hope to be interacting with the FDA soon in partnership with GRIN2B Foundation. I just talked to Keith about that. I don't have any timeline for that though, but that is on our mind. And then we are working with Combined Brain on several projects, which Anna here is from Combined Brain. She is going to explain to you what Combined Brain is better than I could. But these are the projects that we are working on with Combined Brain, and she'll go over them in more detail. But we did our separate research meeting Friday in that back room, where basically all the presentations you heard, we heard separately and had a little bit more. And then there was more discussion amongst the researchers. And they are helping us develop a strategic research plan, which part of that is the Caregiver Priority Survey. We'll be updating research information on the website, and then we'll be restructuring our RFP program, which is basically our program where we accept grant requests from researchers, and then we decide what we're going to fund. And then lastly, we're working with Combined Brain and University of Minnesota on a disease concept model for GRIN2B, which Anna will be able to explain far better than I could. That was it for me. Anna's going to talk now, but a couple quick reminders. We have extra conference shirts, so if you didn't get a shirt, feel free to go. We have a box floating around somewhere. Oh, they're actually just sitting out on the table right outside. Feel free to grab a shirt if you didn't get one. And and then a final plug that if we have extra bracelets, if you think you're going to do a fundraiser in September and you want bracelets to hand out, we've got extra bracelets, so come see us. All right, and now I'm going to pass it off to Anna. Oh, that's not working? Worked for me. Oh. You're trying to point at stuff?
Like a laser pointer.
It's not
Got
a
it.
laser pointer.
Okay, that's why
Do
it's
you
not
want me to
working.
point?
No, it's okay. Nope. All right. Okay, so Liz has already introduced me. My name is Anna Pfalzer. Today I'm here as the Chief Scientific Officer for this organization called Combined Brain. It's short for the Consortium for Outcome Measures and Biomarkers for Neurodevelopmental Disorders, which is very appropriate for most of the talks that you guys were hearing throughout the day yesterday. So our mission is kind of a lofty one, and ultimately what it is we're really trying to coordinate and collaborate with the various clinicians, scientists, basic scientists, translational scientists, to really figure out a way to expedite the development of meaningful treatments for kids with various, typically monogenetic neurodevelopmental disorders. This figure here, which I would normally point to, so I'm just going to go like this, are the various logos of some of the groups that are in part of our Combined Brain. This is pretty outdated. I think we're up to having somewhere between 100 and 110 different patient advocacy groups for various populations of neurodevelopmental / neuromuscular / neurodegenerative disorders, and primarily, though, pediatric populations. Oh, okay. I circled GRIN2B here because Liz and GRIN2B were part of the OG number of patient advocacy groups that were from Combined Brain when we first started, which was only about 3 years ago when we first launched Combined Brain. Okay, that green circle is not supposed to be there, but what this is basically a schematic of what the drug development pipeline looks like. If I had a pointer, I would go, if you look on the left-hand side of the screen right here, it starts with identifying the causal gene, right? And in your case, for many of you here in this room, it's probably GRIN2B. And then without spending a lot of time going into each one of these little bubbles and blurbs and cartoons here, you can see that as you go from left to right, there are a lot of different places along the drug development pipeline that require the involvement of the actual patients and their families. So if you look on the bottom, you can see rodent and cell models, right? You need something other than your actual child to start testing things on and looking at, right? So most of the time you've heard of or some of the stuff that Simon's is doing is collecting different patient samples so you could potentially develop cell models from your child. And then as you go further to the right, you see natural history data collection. This is what Johannes and his group have talked about yesterday. And then you have other researchers like Dr. Penn, Dr. Trainellis, and others that are really digging into the mechanism. What is GRIN2B doing on the cellular or in vivo system that's causing some of the clinical phenotypes that we see? Okay, and then as you go further to the right-hand side, you see things called disease concept, disease burden, biomarker identification, and developing patient-centered outcome measures. And then obviously we get close to clinical trials, which we know that we have now for GRIN2B, and then various FDA-approved medications. Okay, so now these green circles are supposed to appear, and these are different places along the drug development pipeline that participation from the patient community is required, right? So Liz and just about every other person who's spoken for the last 48 hours has given you guys nightmares about the number of surveys that you guys should be completing. But in addition to the nightmare number of surveys, there's tons of other ways that we need and have to collect information from you, or even biological samples, or interviews about, your day-to-day life, et cetera. So what I'm gonna talk about in however much time you give me is what each of these little blurbs and bubbles kind of looks like, and how Combined Brain, our nonprofit, is helping the GRIN2B Foundation. Okay. So one of the ones, this is the one that is probably nearest and dearest to my heart as a translational neuroscientist. I've been focusing on looking at biomarkers of early neurological disorders for probably longer than I would like to admit to right now. But people have talked about biomarkers and thrown out the term biomarkers, a couple different talks. But really, when I think of looking at biomarkers, I think those are objective measures that can use to either predict or just get an indication for disease status or progression on an individual, or potentially even how they might respond to a treatment. So these are not surveys. These are not surveys. Most of the time, these are not surveys that a caregiver would fill out. Do you think your child is doing better with communication skills, walking skills, et cetera? These are more objective measures, something that I can measure on your body with an EEG cap. Is Caitlin here? Oh, Caitlin's doing EEGs. She's not here. Things I can collect from your body, blood, saliva, things that can be objectively measured. These are examples here, like biological fluids, physiologic readouts like EEGs or ERPs, like Dr. Hudak is doing. And one of the things that we've done in one of our main initiatives at Combined Brain has been to develop what we're calling a patient-centric biorepository. So what this means is it's not housed at a medical center, it's not housed at a commercial entity, but really we go out like we do potentially here or lots of other conferences, and we collect a variety of different biosamples that we just store and hold for people like Grizz. Oh my God, I just called you Grizz. Liz. That was not supposed to be a joke, but there you have it. Someone like Liz or any other foundation can say, hey, we have this researcher who needs these biosamples, send them to them. So it's been really great, and we have thousands and thousands of samples from different patients right now, and this is sort of an outline of the stuff that we've collected. We also make cell lines, we also collect tissues from kids, et cetera. So that is our major push for really starting to help researchers identify biomarkers for different neurodevelopmental disorders. This is how we do it. So we have a handful of biomarker projects that I have launched at Combined Brain, and this is across a lot of neurodevelopmental disorders. But what we do that is important for the other people who are not actually in this room is that we know that not everybody can come physically to the conference. And so what we do is, you can see there are these stars, various places across the US. We fly a team there, much like Simon's Searchlight does. We fly a team there, and we collect samples from anybody from any of the combined brain disorders that can make it to one of those conference locations. Like if there's somebody who lives in Texas, wherever that star is in the middle of Texas. Sure, let's say Houston. I'm gonna offend somebody from Texas. Okay, they can go to that conference, they can give a sample, and then they just walk on and hopefully do something much better with their day. So that is how we collect and sort of pull off some of this work, and this is how we've collected from over like almost 1,700 kids in the last 2 years that we started this. Okay, so the next big thing that requires patient and caregiver input is what Liz mentioned, not Grizz, mentioned in her slides, which is developing a disease concept model. So what is a disease concept model? It basically is a formal analysis of what symptoms are being reported in a particular community. And really what it is you generate this, we're gonna have a guest speaker here in a second, a comprehensive overview of the symptoms. No, let it ride, it's totally fine. You get a comprehensive overview of all of the symptoms that are being reported in a particular disorder, in this case, GRIN2B. And you can also use this as a rough estimate for the prevalence or frequency of certain symptoms. You can also sort of dig in and see how symptoms change with age. And then ultimately what you do is you use some of these symptoms as a way or as proof of concept to develop outcome measures or validate existing outcome measures to be used in clinical trials. What does this look like? This is qualitative, semi-qualitative interviews with caregivers and healthcare providers and educators. And what you do is you do these hour to an hour and a half long interviews with caregivers until nobody says any new symptom. And then you've decided you have sort of captured every symptom that's been reported across the broadest sort of clinical representation of children or young adults with GRIN2B. And then the idea is that you publish those. You publish those as a way to get as many scientists as possible to start thinking about selecting outcome measures for those symptoms that have been reported as a means to measure change in clinical trials. And as oh my God, I did it again. Oh my God. I didn't actually, I had one beer last night. So there's a formal study is being done at the University of Minnesota right now through the Genetic Counselor Program. Okay. The start to this type of study is actually doing a really comprehensive overview of the literature, what's already published out there. And you can sort of see this colorful schematic that sort of separates the different symptoms that are reported right now in GRIN2B. This is very much an outdated draft, so you're gonna see it's not very complete. But what you will notice is on the left-hand side, this red bar right here is a communication column, and there's a variety of different types of specific symptoms that have been noted in GRIN2B population. So we've really focused in on communication outcome measures to be included in any sort of clinical trial for GRIN2B. So that leads me to, I think, the last little bubble that I'm going to talk about is the importance of developing patient-centered outcome measures for specific populations. And what this means is not just picking outcome measures that clinicians or researchers pick as their endpoints of interest in clinical trials, but outcome measures that are the most important to families. And based upon, a literature review, as well as probably what you guys will report in the caregiver reported survey, seems like changes in communication are one of the most important, or could be one of the most important symptoms that would significantly improve your quality of life as a family, as a child. So this is actually the study that Dr. Reeve spoke about yesterday. And GRIN2B is one of the original groups that are part of the ORCA study right now. And without going into a lot of detail, because Dr. Reeve did that yesterday, but basically this is a communication measure that we are validating in GRIN2B to say, yep, this measure is either sensitive enough or appropriate enough and will be able to detect changes, potentially after some sort of intervention. in communication and skills with in kids with GRIN2B. Oh, okay, hold on. I can't go back. There we go. This is the last slide. Okay, and so then on top of that, so we're really focusing on developing and validating a communication measure in GRIN2B right now, but what we would want to know is what other symptoms where an improvement in that symptom would make the most meaningful impact in your life or your family's life. So if you scan this QR code, and several of you have already done it as I've looked, if you scan that QR code, it should technically take 5 to 10 minutes to complete the survey, but ultimately the question is, if you had a pill or a liquid or whatever that could fix some aspect of living with GRIN2B related disorder, what would it be? And actually that's a little bit of a lie. We say, what's the first symptom, what's the second symptom, what's the third symptom? But you get the idea. What are the 3 most important symptoms in your life or your family's life? Okay. So this is the team that's done a lot of the work that I just talked about, and I think that's all. We're probably well over time. Okay, thank you.
All right. I'll take it back to them. Thank you. You got there too.
That's good. That's good.
Oh, sorry. Okay, we will move on to our next presenter, Katina from Simon Searchlight. Yeah, okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Good morning. So good to see you all today, especially after last night's big party. So thanks for being here. I'm super excited to be here to talk about Simon Searchlight. My name is Katina Calakos. I am a neuroscientist by training and currently working on all things related to phenotypic data collection, curation, and distribution out to families as well as to researchers who access our data. So I'd first like to just say thank you to all of you for participating in so many research projects. Hearing the projects yesterday, Simon Searchlight, we know it's a lot, and we really are so grateful for your continued commitment to advancing this forward for scientific and clinical insights. I'd also like to shout out Liz and the foundation. This has been such an excellent meeting. Thank you for having us. We're really happy to be here. And to engage with all of you families as well. And last shout out, as you heard, we were doing blood draws yesterday. There were some delays due to the casual Microsoft outages that impacted our shipments. So just a huge shout out. Are they here? Yes. Kristen, Riley, Anna, thank you for coming through for us with supplies. We really appreciate it. And we do owe you. So thank you. So I'll get to the meat of the presentation now. So Simon Searchlight is an international research program with the goal of accelerating science and improving lives for people with rare genetic neurodevelopmental disorders. And I'm obviously biased. I think we have a great team on Simon Searchlight, ranging from geneticists, genetic counselors, data analysts, communication specialists, engineers. We really have a great breadth of expertise working behind the scenes to create this research program that's both a good experience for you and good to bring the data out to researchers and clinicians. And so ultimately, what are the goals of Simon Searchlight? Our mission is to shed light on these conditions by collecting high quality, standardized natural history data and building strong partnerships between researchers and families. And so we do this by collecting detailed medical and behavioral histories along with blood samples. We then synthesize this information that you provide and we share it back with you to families. We also freely share this data and samples with qualified researchers. We really want as many eyes on what we're collecting as possible. We also do work to connect researchers and participants from around the world because we have the opportunity to bring so many individuals with the same condition together, and not all researchers are capable of doing that in different silos. So connecting those across and overall strengthening research. And ultimately, all of this is really to promote better understanding of these genetic changes, including GRIN2B.
And so Simon's Searchlight sits in an interesting ecosystem. The kind of umbrella organization, Simon's Foundation, is a nonprofit foundation looking mostly at basic sciences and mathematics, but additionally, this really strong department in autism and NDD-related research. And so this is the Simon's Foundation Autism Research Initiative, or SAFARI, which you might have heard about. And so Simon's Searchlight is within that. It's one of their funded programs. We're a genes first cohort, so having a genetic diagnosis related to autism or neurodevelopment is an eligibility criterion to enter into Searchlight, but we also have some sister studies that we work with. This includes SPARK, which is an autism diagnosed first cohort, so individuals with autism can enroll. And if in their enrollment and participation, their family is notified that their loved one has a genetic condition that's in some way contributing to that autism, and if it's within Simon's Searchlight, they can then be asked if they want to join Simon's Searchlight and find their new tribe there as well. We also partner with the Autism BrainNet, which is a post-mortem brain tissue donation program that you heard about earlier on Friday. And then SAFARI broadly also provides lots of funding for outside researchers to produce their own independent research, ranging from basic through to translational and clinical studies. And overall, all the data that are collected in these cohort studies are made available as research resources, again, for other external investigators to look at. So this includes survey data, animal models, cell lines, all kinds of things. And we have a couple of databases highlighted here. So any researchers in the room, if you're not already familiar, I've included a couple of go-to URLs if you're interested, and I'm also going to be here the rest of the day, so happy to chat further. And so I mentioned that we partner with our sister study, Autism BrainNet. This is a postmortem biorepository, and families, if they are interested, if they have a loved one who unfortunately passes away and has autism or associated genetic condition, they can make the decision, if it's the right fit for their family, to contribute that tissue for science and medicine. And so we are very grateful to the families who do choose to make that generous contribution. And so in terms of genetic conditions we study a lot. There's a big list here. Over 180 conditions, including GRIN2B right there in the middle, boxed in yellow. We also include other GRIN conditions, as well as we recently added some GRIAs and GRIC. So looking forward to learning more about the overall GRI landscape there. And in order to enroll, you can enroll if you're English speaking. We also have folks register in Spanish, French, and Dutch. And we're building out some more of those surveys to make it more accessible to other languages. So what's the data we collect? So the first key point is submitting a lab report. We want to make sure you're in the right place when you join us. And once our certified genetic counselors review the lab report and make sure you're in the right place, that really unlocks the rest of the research program. So this includes mostly surveys, a lot of surveys. We thank you again in advance. So this includes medical history, information on previous diagnosis, medication history, as well as a host of other clinical domains looking at sleep, seizures, development and behavior, quality of life, and more. And we capture all of these at least one time point. Typically when you first enroll, you'll get a ton of tasks assigned on your dashboard. And then for a subset, we also ask for annual updates, because we don't want to just see one time point. We really want to see over the life course what this condition looks like in your family and in other families with GRIN2B. And so for those of you who have been with us for a little while, you might remember some of the early days of medical histories being on the phone. We wanted to make it easier, so we put it fully online. That is available on dashboards. So you can share medical updates. Don't worry about time zones. It's a meaty survey. You could take some breaks. And ultimately, all of this is to provide important medical information to researchers in the scientific community. And for those of you already in Searchlight, this looks familiar. For those not, this is the participant dashboard where the magic happens. So on the family progress bar here, it's showing the steps to complete throughout Simon's Searchlight. And then in the middle right there is where we tell you, if you have 10 minutes today, what would we love for you to start doing? That high priority task. Here, this is a sample participant looking at the annual medical history survey. And then a little further down, you'll start seeing active tasks for that person where we would like you to complete additional information. And as a token of our gratitude, we do provide gift cards after survey completion, and that information is in the rewards section. And so furthermore, we're looking to see what else we can be implementing to better understand GRIN2B and other conditions. You heard about the ORCA. We are working very closely with the folks who've already spoken to you about the ORCA, and we are quite close. Working on this as I get home after to launching this so that more people can contribute interesting data about communication and a couple of other things on the horizon as well. And so I've talked a lot about what we are taking from you in terms of data collection, but we also want to give information back. And so we do that in a number of ways. So for a couple of surveys, we provide personalized reports that essentially summarize some of the information you've told us about your loved one with GRIN2B. So this includes things like the SCQ, the SRS, our seizure history survey. All of these are available on the participant dashboard. If ever you're confused and you don't see it, let us know. Coordinator@simonsearchlight.org will point you in the right direction. Also, just generally, we have a team here the rest of the day, so come talk to us at the booth if you'd like. And then beyond just individual summaries, we want to see the bigger picture across GRIN2B. What does the community look like? So we do quarterly snapshots that we publish online, where we're summarizing, for example, that's what's pictured here, medical history data on page 1. This is from the last quarter of GRIN2B. And then our page 2, where the rest of the PDF is usually a spotlight on some interesting new information that we want to share. So for example, last quarter, we decided to map out, where in the world are GRIN2B participants in Simon's Searchlight. And then finally, we do deeper dives, for example, conferences like this, presentations at genetic community conferences, scientific and professional conferences with bigger audiences of researchers. We do webinars. We sometimes go to PAG meetings. I mean, just contact us. We can always see what works. I mentioned as well that we don't want to exist just in a silo. We also want to connect with other researchers, not with just using the data collected in Searchlight, but also connecting with the participants involved. And so we have a research match program whereby researchers can contact us if they're interested in studying a genetic condition, and they want to, let's say, deploy a new survey, or they want to recruit people for an in-clinic study. They let us know what genetic conditions they're interested in, and then we can then ask the families if they're interested in participating, making that link across studies. So we have over 3,000 Searchlight families across our full cohort who have been invited to participate to date. And researchers as well, if you're doing a remote study and you want to add surveys, you can work with us and we will implement it in our system and distribute it out. So really highly recommend tapping into Research Match if you haven't already for the researchers in the room. And additionally, Searchlight participants can donate a blood sample. You heard about this with the blood draws. We do that a lot in in-person meetings, but we also, if you're in the US, we can send a blood sample kit free of charge to your home, and then you can make an appointment with a local Quest, and then the lab mails that back to Searchlight. And so, what's the point of all of this? Why are we using blood samples? Anna already described a lot of great use cases. You heard a lot of great use cases yesterday as well. So there's a number of different reasons biologically why we're interested in looking at blood samples to better understand GRIN2B and other conditions, one of which being using induced pluripotent stem cells. And so I won't dig into this too much since you have heard about it, but just very briefly, if an individual is donating a blood sample, scientists can essentially take that blood sample, turn it into an kind of earlier state, infant-like state cell, and then ask it to become a different type of mature cell in some body system, whether that's a brain cell, liver cell, other tissue. And they can use that information to look specifically at the biology of that cell type for better understanding GRIN2B or helping with drug screening, drug discovery. And so it's quite a resource-intensive process. It is not an easy feat to develop and maintain IPS lines. And so for that reason, we developed this really great system whereby we're working with Sampled and the New York Stem Cell Foundation. This is funded by Safari and the Nancy Laurie Marks Family Foundation. So for a subset of individuals, it's not everybody, but for a subset of individuals who contribute blood samples, those are then used to create these iPSCs. And we've created over 150 iPSCs across Simon's Searchlight, across 20 plus gene groups, and researchers can access those today by going to Safari Base, which is essentially our data distribution platform. And so we're collecting all this data, and we're saying we want people to use it, so the question is, are people using it? And the answer is yes, fortunately. So we have about 170 research teams who have downloaded some of our Pheno data sets. This looks like about 220 individual projects, since people come back for new projects and new data. Close to about 800 data sets actually requested. as well as close to 100 teams looking at biospecimen samples across Searchlight. And so GRIN2B data is included in these requests because we essentially combine all of the gene groups together and then indicate who has GRIN2B. And just for the researchers in the room, again, I referenced Safari Base. If you haven't looked at it before, I would go to base.safari.org. 3-step process: create an account, make a request, and then the team reviews and hopefully typically approves it in up to 2 weeks, and then access to that data is available. Okay, so I talked a lot about data infrastructure, Simon Searchlight infrastructure. Let's get into the meat of what the data are actually telling us. So this is our progress chart for GRIN2B and Simon Searchlight. We have 167 individuals with GRIN2B who have registered for Simon Searchlight. That is a very exciting number for us, thank you. 140 have provided a genetic lab report. So again, if anyone's sort of in that in-between space where you registered and maybe didn't submit your lab report, if you're having trouble, let us know. We can help facilitate. We even frequently will contact laboratories to get that lab report on your behalf. Because that way it really unlocks the rest of the registry. So step 3, sharing medical history. 114 individuals have shared medical history. 122 have filled out additional surveys. And then about 40 folks have provided a blood sample. And these are all numbers from about early to mid-June. So it does not reflect anyone from yesterday. So Searchlight families across the board live in 75 countries globally. We have 128 GRIN2B participants in 18 countries. So what we're showing here in the yellow tick marks with numbers, those are GRIN2B specific families. So as you can see, mostly in the US, but we do have quite a smattering across different continents globally. So we are super jazzed. And I know some families here today are coming from outside the US, so thank you for making the trip. Very nice to meet you in person. And then again, most Searchlight families are living in the US. We have 84 GRIN2B participants here, a big hub in the Northeast, and then as we move east to west, we see different hubs emerging across the states. Okay, so this slide here is a little meaty, and I'm not gonna dig too much. A lot of this is stuff you heard yesterday, but just to kind of orient you, this slide is showing that we have 123 individuals with pathogenic or likely pathogenic variants in GRIN2B. This is 41 more participants than last year. We are very excited to see this growth. So thank you again for participating. So in the little box up in the top left, what you'll notice is that we have many missense variants shown here. We also have individuals with frame shift nonsense variants, splice site intronic variants, and intragenic deletions. So these particular variants are not being shown in this exact schematic, in part because in many cases, but not all cases, in many cases these are thought to predict loss of function or known to be loss of function. But with this missense variant category, we need a little bit more information. We need some more functional testing to really understand the impact of that variant. And so as you heard yesterday, there are these fantastic researchers that spoke yesterday who are developing these functional assays, running these assays, and getting that functional information and making it available on GRIN portal. So just as like a perfect example of cross collaboration, my colleague Misha dug right into the GRIN portal, looked at the results and said, in these variants, what are we thinking based on the data might be likely possible gain of function, likely possible loss of function, and currently unknown, undetermined, we may need more information. So that's the color coding here of the different genetic variants across the protein product. So this is just a little snapshot of some of the genetic information we have in Searchlight. Now, in terms of biospecimens, 41 folks have participated and contributed to the available biospecimens. From these samples, we can generate at least one or more samples that are distributed to researchers. So this includes, for example, 11 iPSC lines in GRIN2B, 34 whole blood DNA samples, and a couple of other different types of sample subtypes. And in thinking of iPSCs, as I mentioned, we have 11 lines coming from 10 distinct variant types. There's one that has 2 carriers. We tried for a last one, but that reprogramming was a little trickier. So depending on whether or not we could get more source material, that might be tried again. But ultimately, these lines coming from these carriers are available for researchers to request access to. And so far, 11 research groups have already requested GRIN2B iPSCs. So again, for any researchers interested, please go to Safari Base or just talk to me after. And in terms of the medical history data collected here, we're going to focus on pathogenic and likely pathogenic variants. On the earlier slide, what I forgot to mention is we also have 15 VUS participants. And so for the sake of sort of communicating out about what we know about GRIN2B, we're only focusing on pathogenic and likely path, but we do collect data from VUS participants so that we can better understand more information about whether it might become downgraded or upgraded over time in combination with other literature published. So for our medical history, we have 96 participants who contributed medical history data in that path likely path group, about an even split, 52 male, 44 female. We have an average age of about 9 years of age at the time that the medical history was reported on, but we have quite an age range going from 1 year to 35 years of age. And so most of the remainder of the slides will look something like this, and just as a quick orientation, all of the, on the axis here, on the vertical axis, are different conditions that we ask about in medical history, and then the length of the horizontal bar means that the longer the bar is, the more people are reporting that condition. So for example, in developmental and behavioral conditions, we have somewhere between 90 to 99% of individuals reporting language delay or impairment or intellectual disability or developmental delay, and then a smaller subset of individuals reporting diagnoses of autism and ADHD, and then smaller again for anxiety and OCD. And then in terms of medical conditions, the way this is oriented here, same rules apply on axis and length, but the top ones, the top conditions are less commonly reported in the GRIN2B community, and those that are further down are more commonly reported. So we're seeing more about seizures, orthopedic, bone and joint concerns, endocrinologic concerns, vision issues, GI issues, neurological issues. So if we dive into some of those kind of higher rates of reporting in neurological conditions, for example, we're seeing in the Searchlight data, 84% of individuals reporting hypotonia or low muscle tone, smaller subsets looking at coordination problems and movement disorders, some cases of high muscle tone, and then a couple of other neurological conditions reported as well. I will caveat to say that these numbers are underestimating, and I'll get to why briefly, but we do have in this chart at least 23%, but there are more individuals reporting seizures, and we can see here different types of subtypes being reported by families. And so this is why I say that. Sometimes folks understandably will complete the seizure history survey before they do the medical history survey. I'm working on the back end to do a lot of that merging of this data, but not quite ready for this presentation. Will be for next time, if I have the opportunity. So in this particular survey data, we have 34 individuals reporting having had seizures. This does not include certain annual updates, so this number also might increase once we're considering some annual updates that we've gotten more recently. But overall, when looking at seizures, we see that based on family reporting, seizure onset was ranging from anywhere from 1 month through 7 years, with average age of first seizure being 2 years. We have over half of individuals having had to take medications for their seizures, and majority of those continuing to take preventative medication for their seizures. And about 1/5 of individuals who've ever had a seizure report having achieved seizure control or remission at some time. So average age here being about 4 years of age, but ranging from 9 months through to 12 years. So if we pivot back to some of our medical history data, looking in vision, about 31% of individuals report crossed eyes, a mixture of nearsightedness, farsightedness, and then a number of other conditions affecting vision as well. So in sensory systems like this, of course, it's very helpful to get clinical care there. The more input we're getting into the brain, the better. And then with orthopedic conditions, 16% of individuals reporting scoliosis, and then a couple of other orthopedic conditions as well, looking pectus excavatum, hip dysplasia, and other conditions affecting bones and joints. And then with endocrinologic conditions, about 26% reporting a failure to thrive diagnosis, short stature, issues affecting thyroid and puberty. Many folks, about 1/3 at least, are reporting having had some sort of surgery in lifetime. So this is many head and neck surgeries, gastrointestinal interventions, many of which are G-tubes, and a couple of other surgery examples here. Bracing for scoliosis, not quite in the same category, but included here for if helpful. And then with medication use, we collect information about what medications are being taken and for what. So we have about 36% of folks reporting medications being used to help manage gastrointestinal issues. A smaller subset, for example, looking at seizures medication, looking at anti-epileptics, maybe sedatives, and then smaller numbers of people taking medications, let's say for helping with sleep, anxiety, mood, and behavior. We ask generally if there is a medication that seems to work best for managing seizures, and the sort of pictures here are saying the number of folks who rate this as being most effective for seizures. And so what you can appreciate is that even on a family level, something might be working best for their child. If looking across GRIN2B, nothing is popping out as particularly most effective, but more information is needed. And so in this last section, I'll pivot towards some of the other measures we collect, including the Vineland Adaptive Behavior Scales, or Vineland-3, which you've heard about. And so this is looking at development over the life course. And so I'll quickly orient you to these growth charts. So this is, for example, okay, that's okay. Some pieces are missing, but that's okay. So in these growth charts, on the horizontal x-axis, we have actual age of the participant at the time that the Vineland was completed. So these are being completed by a parent or caregiver, and they're giving that to us online. And then on the kind of vertical y-axis level of functioning, this is telling us, given the skills that you've shared with us about your loved one with GRIN2B, at what approximate age and what we see in typical development are they functioning? And so each blue dot is an actual person. And so, for example, in the lower left, this child represented by this blue dot is 3 years old, and the level of speech that they're using is seen more typically in other individuals that are at the 1 year of age. And so the solid orange line is a trend line, and it's showing across GRIN2B, if we take all of these data points together, what are we seeing over the life course from age 0 through to 18 plus. This graph actually kind of stops at 18, but we are trying to figure out a better way to display some of that data from our older participants. And so here for this data, this particular graph is looking at expressive language. And so the dots are placed at the level at which they express themselves. And so we have about 70% of individuals are likely to be using some degree, single word, otherwise, of language at age 4 and older. And then in looking at personal care skills, levels of independence, these dots are placed again at the level at which people are able to do things for themselves. So looking at this trend line and calculating out based on age, we see about 2/3 of individuals are reporting likely to be feeding themselves at ages 4 and older, and several can do more things for themselves as well, indicated by higher blue dots. In pivoting towards more social development questions, social behaviors, there are a couple of little milestone markers here. I failed to mention that earlier. Just thinking about in typical development, what are certain milestones people see? So for example, in these data, we're seeing that, for example, 60% of individuals are likely to be making eye contact at age 4 and older, and then others can do more social behaviors as well. And then finally, looking at gross motor development here, thinking of motor skills, walking, others. A majority of children in the Searchlight data set based on Vineland data are likely to be walking at age 4 and older, and many are able to do more physical activities, again, seeing a wider spread in those blue dots moving up. And so finally, last piece of data, I'm sorry, I realize I don't have a timer, I hope I'm not going too much over, is our Child Behavior Checklist, or CBCL. This is where we ask families about certain behavioral or emotional concerns that they're observing in their children that they're reporting to us. And so, for example, in the assessment that looks more at younger ages, 1.5 to 5 years of age, some concerns that pop up most in the GRIN2B data include things like desiring frequent attention, hyperactivity, wandering away, or quickly moving from one activity to the next. And then in our older age group, 6 through 18, we have more data here from 50 individuals. This includes some overlap, so frequent distractions, certain obsessions, demanding frequent attention, and that hyperactivity again comes through in the older age group. And so finally, to summarize, looking across our medical, developmental, and behavioral data in GRIN2B, we're seeing common issues related to intellectual disability and developmental delay, language delay, vision problems, low muscle tone, seizures, and autism, as well as issues in bone and joints, endocrinologic, certain movement and coordination issues, as well as some behavioral and emotional concerns that parents have. And so with that, thank you so much for listening to me talk. We are contactable at all kinds of social media outlets. The best bet for direct communication with us is coordinator@simonsearchlight.org. That is the email address on the lower left. We can also provide that information at the booth as well. Thank you again for your time and for contributing your data. And I'm happy, I'm not sure if we have time for questions. If we do, I'm happy to take them. If not, I'll be here. Okay, no questions. I'll be at the booth, so thank you.
Thank you, Katina.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, so no surprise, we're running behind. So I would like to bring up, Julie Vanek from the Children's Hospital, Colorado. She is going to talk to us about a topic that is near and dear to my heart, near and dear to my bad back, learning proper ways to lift our children. Yes, I picked a topic that was very much for me. But if it's not for you, then kudos to you, but just wait. Just wait till they get bigger. All right, take it away, Julie.
All right. Oh, I have a mic.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
I need this
There you go.
thing. All right, so I'm Julie. I work at Children's Hospital Colorado as part of the multidisciplinary team that sees kiddos with neurogenetic disorders, including GRIN2B. So that was the introduction. We're going to talk about things to consider, some safety, different types of transfers, and other situations that may use that, and just some additional thoughts. So first thing to think about is really you need to know yourself. What are your pre-existing conditions? What are your limitations to being able to lift your child or move your child? Do you have pain or other previous injuries or anything like that? You also need to consider kind of your body and how tall you are. So working from a height that's more comfortable for you, or so if you're a little shorter or a little taller, you might need to adjust the surfaces that you're moving your child between accordingly. Next, you really need to know your child. Who are you lifting? So at Children's, we have a policy for lifting weights, just for our safety and the patient's safety. So if the child weighs under 35 pounds, then we can do just a one-person lift. If they're between 30 to 75 pounds, then we really need to try and use 2 people. And then if they're over 75 pounds, we really need to try to use equipment. Again, that's just for their safety and your safety. As parents, you're going to be lifting your children a lot, and as your child gets heavier, that repetitive lifting could potentially lead to injuries. So it's important to start thinking about equipment and different lifts and things earlier on to reduce your risk. The other thing you need to consider is, what is your child's physical condition? Do they have head control? Do they have arm and legs control? Where do you need to put your hands? If they don't have good head control, you're going to have to support their head. You need to keep their arms and legs a little bit closer to their body while you're moving them. The other thing to consider, and I know this is a big thing with this population, is what is their cognitive level? Are they able to participate? Will they cooperate? Are they able to follow directions? We always want to try to explain to the child or the patient what we're going to do with them prior to moving them. That way they can try and participate if possible. Next, we want to consider the equipment and other options that are available. So like I already talked about, you might need 1 or 2 people. And then you want to set up your environment. So you want to move the wheelchair or the stroller, the chair, the bed, whatever you're moving your child to or from, move them as close together as possible to decrease that distance that you have to move. You want to move any armrests, leg rests, any other obstacles out of the way, and make sure that the brakes are locked so that the surfaces are nice and stable and not going to move. It's really important that you take the time to move these and set up for success. This way you will avoid injuries for everybody. So key points for lifting is you want to create a nice base of support for yourself, standing with your feet 8 to 12 inches apart, about shoulder width, and try to have like a little staggered stance so that you're a little bit, it's easier to kind of pivot and move. When you lift and move, you want to pivot with your feet and rotate there instead of with your back. Don't twist your back. And then, like I said, try and tell the person what you're going to do before you do it. Give them a countdown, 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1, ready, set, go, something like that. Another key point is you never want to lift or pull a person's arms or shoulders. We could cause injuries if we do that. And again, just remember the height of the surfaces, lock the brakes, remove armrests, and position the surfaces accordingly. So this is an example of someone lifting something really well. They're using their legs, they're keeping that object close to their body and lifting up. This is just to, again, show that difference. So do not bend at your back or your hips or your waist. This person is lifting a child. Her hands are maybe questionable under the shoulders, but she's using good body mechanics, bending at her hips and her knees. If you need to roll the kiddo in the bed, get up on the bed and roll them towards you. And then if they're able to sit, to help with that transfer, kind of swing their legs and bring them up first. Other key safety points, if they have any lines or tubes, oxygen, feeding tubes, anything like that, make sure that those are in a position to move with you while you do that transfer, or just move them out of the way. If you're doing a 2-person transfer, make sure you know who's doing what. Talk to each other beforehand, so you have a plan, and make sure you know which direction you're going to be moving. So keep in mind those good body mechanics. Keep the patient as close to your body as possible, your elbows bent, bend your knees and lift from your legs, and shift your weight and your feet instead of twisting your back. So just gonna go through some different types of transfers. We're gonna show you a slide board, a stand pivot, a 2-person, and then a mechanical lift or a Hoyer lift. I also wanted to just show real quick a gait belt. So this is used for assisting in getting a good grip on a patient. Instead of grabbing their arms or somewhere else, you want a belt that you can attach. It goes around their waist. You want it pretty snug so it's not going to slip and move around, but loose enough that you can get a good grip on it. There are different options. There's some that are a little bit wider and thicker. They have different cushions and handles just for some more patient comfort or ease of caregiver transfers. So I just wanted to just show a slide board. So this is just an example of a slide board. This can be used by a patient or child independently or with 1 or 2 people. And I will hopefully try and demonstrate this. So you're going to position the slide board at the edge of the chair, under the child's hip, have them shift their weight to get them all the way onto the slide board. And then you're going to kind of assist them by tipping their head in the opposite direction and guiding their hips across the board. If they're able to, cue them to keep their feet on the floor and use their legs to help push. And then once they're all the way seated on the next surface, pull them to safety. All right, and then the next one is a stand pivot. So this is a great one if the kiddo can put a little bit of weight through their feet so that they can help participate. So you want to position the surfaces close together, ensure that the brakes are locked or the chair is stable. You're going to stand in front. You can use the gait belt or pants, or you can give them a bear hug. Again, we don't want to pull under their arms because we can cause some injuries. And you're going to squat, bring them a little bit closer to the edge of the seat, and then cue them to push up to stand, and your legs can kind of block the legs of the patient and have them step, and then you're going to help swing them over to the next chair. Try and cue them to lower slowly or use a hand if possible. And Liz, you want to demonstrate with me? All right, so we're going to try a demonstration real quick. Yeah. Again, so we want to set up the chairs so they are at a good angle. Yeah, we can go that way. So I'm going to just demonstrate use with a gait belt. So I'm going to get this really close around her waist. I didn't adjust that from last time. All right, so this is Liz. She's a coworker of mine. So I'm going to position my legs in a nice staggered stance. I'm going to get my knee to kind of block her knees. I'm going to cue her. I want her to lean forward. We're going to shift her hips forward a little bit, and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and we're going to lift and rotate. 1, 2, 3, and move her to the next seat. If we want to use a slide board, excuse me, I'm going to shove this under her legs. I'm going to lift her up. Sorry, I don't know how to do this without getting in the way. Shove it under her hips. And again, I'm going to cue her to lean forward. We're going to rotate to the opposite side so that we can kind of slide her hips along the surface. And then make sure she's back, and then I can remove it from under her hips. Okay, awesome, thank you. All right, I do have a video. Maybe we'll just skip those though. All right, not working. Okay. So going to the 2-person transfers. Again, these are for kiddos that are a little bit more dependent, need a little bit more assistance, or that weigh over that 75 pounds, or 35 pounds, excuse me. So one person is going to be behind the child, and the other person is going to grab their legs. And again, this is where we want to really talk about who's doing what. The person who is behind the child and lifting them up there is going to be the leader and really determine which direction you're moving. So a kiddo that is a little bit bigger, that weighs over that 75 pounds or needs that maximum assistance, there's mechanical lifts. This is an example of a Hoyer lift. So it just has a sling seat and uses hydraulic power to help lift a patient. So it powers it up. You can lift the patient and then guide them over to the new surface or wherever you need to move them to. So another big situation to think about is transferring in and out of vehicles. The things we want to keep in mind with this is what kind of vehicle. Is it a car, an SUV, a truck? How high is it? This is going to complicate or increase the difficulty with moving. What kind of car seat do you have? Is it an adaptive car seat? I think some of them can kind of rotate in the car. That might make things a little bit easier to move. And then how much can the kiddo do independently? So depending on the height of the car or the seat, you could try the stand pivot, a 1 or 2 person lift. If it's a really tall vehicle, you might get the kiddo into the floor of the vehicle and then help them up into the seat from there. You might have to work on getting them to do some climbing to be able to climb up into the seat, or have 2 people in the car and one person can help from the back and help lift the hips up. Key points we want to consider here is making sure that when our kid's using the surface or you're putting your hands on a surface, make sure it's nice and stable. So the seat, not the door, or use the car frame. Get the child's vehicle, get the bottom into the vehicle first, into the seat first, and then bring the rest of the body in. So you want to slide those hips in first, and then you can rotate the legs in. And then depending on the height of the seat, you can use the slide board to help get them in. Talked about that. So just remember your proper lifting techniques. Don't pivot or rotate your back. You want to pivot out your feet. Keep that their weight close to you as you move. Are we able to try and do this video maybe? Okay. And if you scroll down on the page, it should pull up.
This video will explain how to a car. Here are some important things to keep in mind prior to doing a transfer. Always remember to keep yourself safe during transfers. Do not lift at the expense of your own back. This transfer often requires the individual's assistance, so be sure to communicate clearly throughout the transfer. If the individual cannot direct their own care or express their needs, you'll need 2 people for this transfer. To add strength to the transfer, brace your knees against theirs to keep their legs from buckling. Also, transfer toward the individual's stronger side if possible. This transfer is often called the stand and pivot or bear hug transfer. Maneuver the wheelchair or assistive device to the individual's car door. Open the car door, unbuckle the seatbelt, and move the seat back to maximize transfer space. Make sure to stabilize and/or lock the device you're transferring the individual from. If needed, move the wheelchair footrests out of the way. Stand facing the individual. Wrap your arms around their torso under the armpits with your hands clasped behind their back like a hug. Use of a gait belt can help with a single-person transfer. Plant your foot, the one farthest from the destination location, between the individual's legs for leverage. Bend your hips and knees to squat down, keeping the individual close to your body. Straighten your legs to lift upwards. Avoid turning and twisting while you're lifting. Next, pivot the individual to the car seat. Communicate with the individual when you plan to move and provide a countdown to prepare for the transfer. If they can, allow the individual to bear weight on their feet. Lower the individual into the car using the proper lifting technique while ensuring their head clears the roof of the car. Once the individual is seated, keep one of your hands on the individual's back near the shoulder blades, while placing the other hand under the knees to swing their legs into the car while you glide their body into the seat. Once the individual is seated comfortably, buckle their seatbelt and close the car door. Transfer out of a car. Maneuver the wheelchair or assistive device to the individual's car door. Make sure to stabilize and/or lock the device you're transferring the individual to. Move the wheelchair footrests out of the way if needed. Open the car door and unbuckle the individual. Ask the individual to lean forward while you place your left arm behind their back and your right arm underneath their knees. While supporting their back, swing the individual's legs up and out of the car towards you and onto the ground. Pivot and transfer them back into the wheelchair. Allow the individual to assist you as much as they can. Slowly lower the individual into the wheelchair using proper lifting technique. Place the individual's footrests in their proper position. Keep your hand on their shoulder as you move behind the wheelchair to ensure they do not fall forward. Apply seatbelt or other wheelchair safety devices. From behind the wheelchair, place your arms under the individual's armpits and slide them back into the wheelchair in an upright position. Please visit our sites to learn more about caregiving resources.
Okay, let me go back to the PowerPoint. Okay. So other situations that you're going to need to worry about is going to the bathtub or shower. There are different bath chairs and seating that you can put in the bathtub that can help. Different equipment is available to help with this transfer. This is just like a little bench to help, kind of like the slide board. You can use a slide board to slide that kid over that rim of that bathtub to help get them into the bath. I'm sure a lot of kids still like to play on the floor, so getting them up off the floor, helping them transition back up into either kneeling or tall kneeling, and have them pull up to standing and climb up onto the surface. Again, that might be a way to help them get into the car seat from the floor of the car. If they're strong enough in their arms, they might be able to just lift up their bottom and push it back on. Or you might have to do a 2-person lift. So there's another example of that. One person's behind their back, under their chest, around their chest, and then under their arms. So if you have any additional concerns, please follow up with your child's physical therapist regarding specific concerns, because each child has very different needs and might need different strategies or ways to help them. Your safety should be the #1 priority so you can continue to care for your kiddo. And make sure to include and involve your kid as much as possible when you're doing these transfers. It's going to help keep them active, keeps them engaged, and keeps everybody safe. All right. There's my contact, and just a quick disclaimer. Okay. That's it. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Julie.
Oh, I need these.
No, we're going to take a break now. Yeah. Okay. So we ran late, so we're going to shift the next speaker on caregiver. I forgot what it was. You guys know, you have the agenda. We're going to shift that to after the break. So I'm not sure if the food's quite set up yet, but it should be set up momentarily. So we're going to break then until 10, right? I think. Yeah. So we'll take a break and then we'll come back. Actually, let's just come back at 10, and then we'll do the next speaker. Okay. Thanks, guys.
It's Okay.
Which would have been.
No, it's not him. The guy that's very much.
Come on, I gotta Addie, come on, let's go. Get out of the high chair or the stroller. Come on. I'm not pushing you in that. Come on. Okay, let's go look. You go this way?
Yeah.
Okay. So cold in this room.
Put that in the notes. Hi, Larry.
Should we go walk around a little bit? How big is this aquarium?
I don't know. I haven't had time to stand there, but it looks cool.
It's easier to use a projector rather than the stand.
Hey, do you want to do Stitch Adam because That's stuff. I'll pull that up.
So I think that overburdened yours.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Hopfgarten and I am a parent champion for Courageous Parents Network. And the reason I am involved in the special needs community is that I had a son living with mitochondrial disease, Jacob, for 10 beautiful years. And as part of his life, I am still today quite involved with Children's Hospital across the street. And I was part of their family advisory council for years. And I also was sitting on their patient safety board and numerous other committees. And also for 11 years, I ran my own nonprofit for mitochondrial families. During my day, I worked for Thermo Fisher, and I basically ran their translation department, so also very involved with clinical trials, because that's actually what we translate. So this is Jacob, and at CPN, we actually are challenging all of us with a 6 words challenge. And my 6 words are, no one should walk this journey alone. And because I think that's also why all of you are here today. It's very hard to do this on your own. You need your community, you need your people. And that's also how we were able to care for Jacob for 10 years. So I already mentioned Jacob had a mitochondrial disease. He was severely impacted by his mitochondrial disease, we usually said if we weren't home, we were at children's. So that was a little bit how our life was for 10 years. With mitochondrial disease, your major organs are typically impacted, and Jacob's brain was severely impacted. He had severe epilepsy, and he actually, for many years, had status subclinical seizures at all times. We just could never truly control them. And then his lungs were impacted, so he very easily could get a respiratory infection, pneumonia, which often led to us we were on the 9th floor or we were in the PICU. But despite all of that, Jacob loved going to school. Jacob loved going in a swimming pool. That was one of the things he loved the most because he couldn't walk, but he felt freedom when he was in water. Jacob loved the Minions, so the song Happy was always on repeat. And he usually talked his teacher into listening to Happy versus doing schoolwork. So, and he was very loved. And today, I actually have the great pleasure of later today to seeing his best friend from school. She lives in Switzerland now, but she is in Colorado visiting. So very much looking forward to seeing her later today. And I know you all have your stories about your kids and, outside of the actual disease and diagnosis. Today, we're going to talk about a topic, caregiver burnout. And it's caused by the sense that your stress somehow outweighs your own coping abilities. And this is something that we all should be aware of, because even as we love our kids, it is a lot of work to do 24/7 care. And I wish I could today tell you you're going to get more respite, you're going to get more nursing care, etc., because I know that's what you need, but I can't. So instead, I'm going to give you some tools to maybe use on this journey, and more than anything, maybe find out what are your triggers for burnout, and if you're aware of the triggers, what can you do about them? So how do we cope? Yes, so you do need to recognize your triggers, and at CPN, we have actually identified several common triggers that we will review together. And then notice your emotions. It is very easy for us to move straight to a solution. We have a lot going on and we have a problem to solve, but what are your emotions as part of that? And then see your strengths. Don't forget, what are you actually good at? And also the next one here, what is in your control? So we look at both. And then find your community and belonging. That can really help you with the caregiver burnout, that you have your people that can support you, and it's not just necessarily a nurse, but somebody you can talk to. And I'm hoping over the last couple of days you have had many good conversations who really know how it is to walk in your shoes. So some common triggers, change in baseline or a new medical challenge for your child. That could easily be a trigger for burnout. I remember when Jacob was very sick and was in the PICU, that was a very stressful time for us. And that's typically when I felt more stressed and more burned out than maybe when we were home and we had our typical routine. Changes in plans or times of transition. So are you changing school? Are you changing doctor? Are you changing clinic? Are you moving? Any of those changes can be huge triggers because there's something new, and you're gonna once again have to build that support system around the change. So watch your own self in that. Exposure to information, I would say less is more. We all have access to internet, and sometimes that can almost be overwhelming. So find your true resources. I'm sure GRIN2B Foundation has great resources. Feel free to check out Courageous Parents Network. We are a digital platform, and it's really whenever you want to access it, and it's for free, and it tries to really give you unbiased information on big decisions, but also topics like parenting, siblings, etc. So if you haven't checked it out, just go to Courageous Parents Network and see what you think. Comparison to others or a longing for a normal life, I think we all have felt that. I remember one spring break, and we had made this elaborate plan to still go skiing in the mountains. And my husband and I were going to take turns because Jacob did not do well on high altitude. And we had family who had come in from Sweden, and our daughter was going to ski for a week. And he ended up in the PICU the day before we were supposed to go. So it was my husband's family, so he still went ahead with the ski trip. And I remember, you know, just looking through, I think it was Facebook, and seeing everybody being on spring break and on beaches, in the mountains, and just feeling like, this is so not my life. I'm here in the PICU, and I was supposed to be on the ski hill. And I think we all still, you know, of course we know what we need to do, but I think it would almost be abnormal to not once in a while wanting that a little bit more normal life. And then unwanted advice, you know, it's often given out of goodness, but it might not really be what you need. And it might be good to maybe sometimes even, you know, distance yourself if you get a lot of unwanted advice from certain people. But that can also be a trigger for, you know, stress, because it might be something that you are not ready for, or you don't want to have being brought up over and over again. So we have a say at CPN, you have to name it to tame it. So you really have to think about what we say, but what do we actually really feel? And I think this is true for everyone. I had something happening at work on Friday that I wasn't very happy about. And I just was like, oh, I'm fine, you know, I'm not caring about it. But then overnight, I woke up, and then all those feelings actually came. I had some anxiety about the decision and impact on my department. And so, you know, those feelings will catch up with you anyway somehow. So sometimes we just need to take a step back and truly, truly name them. And then don't forget your superpower. You all have them. And, you know, maybe people are constantly telling you what you're good at, so, you know, don't forget about that. Or you might say, you know, I know that I'm really, really good at this. And I know that people these days, they're using a gratitude journal. Maybe you need your superpower journal, and just by the end of the day, write down what did you really do well today, and what did you bring to your child, because you know, there are constant things that you are overcoming, and let's also focus on the good. And this picture is a little bit how I remember feeling. You know, you are actually both the passenger and the driver at the same time. You're the passenger because there are so many things outside your control. Your child has maybe, you know, new developments, and you feel like, okay, I didn't make that happen, and I don't know what to do about it. But at the same time, you're asked to be the driver. You're asked to advocate for your child and make a decision. And that combination can be very difficult. And so then also take a step back and really think about what is in your control, what can you actually, you know, control at the moment, And sometimes when you start to do that, you might actually even realize, is there something I can delegate to somebody else here so I can maybe lessen the burden? And we had many decisions that were quite hard for us. You know, was Jacob gonna have a trach or not? We, in the end, decided against it, but that was a decision making over multiple years. And, you know, what would that do to him and his breathing versus also his underlying diagnosis where, you know, there was just no cure for him. But I also remember what are the consequences if we put in a new Mediport because he was struggling with anesthesia. So, you know, there are always quite difficult decisions. They're not just a yes or no. And also we know there's no right or wrong. So that can be hard. So really, really focus on what is in your control. And then I think, you know, you all are spending your weekend here. And I think that is really, really important to help with the caregiver burnout, because we all gotta, you know, have to find that friend in me, right? Like we have to find our friends and our community. And so, because it's a human need to have belonging and having a community. And I would say that need is going up in our situations. So thank you to GRIN2B for doing this and putting you all together. But you might have other communities as well. I remember one of my best, and I'm actually still part of it, we had a group called Super Moms, and it was just moms who we have met through children's, and quite varying diagnosis, but you know, really good support, like always there if somebody had a question, or just say, hey, I'm really sorry that your child is sick or is going through this challenge, or that you have to navigate Medicaid or whatever it was. So, you know, find your resources, and they can be more than one. And then maybe also think about that life before your child. You know, sometimes it's good to also have those connections and remind yourself, you know, who are those people who knew you before the life you're living now? And as with anyone, that community might also be shifting and evolving. It might just not also be static. And you might realize something worked for you for a while and, you know, you're outgrowing it. But I think we all can say that sharing in this journey is probably one of the biggest things that can help you on this journey and really avoid the burnout. Some of the things that I did, and I'm not so sure I really was aware of that I did it to avoid burnout, but I carved out an hour to work out every day. And it was not so much about the sweating, but just that mental, you know, help that I got from it. And I remember nurses and doctors at Children's were laughing at me because when we were inpatient, I was always running 6 miles around the hospital after rounds. And I can't run 6 miles anymore, but that's what I did back then. And that just helped me, because just sitting in the room all day or in the PICU, my brain was just starting to, you know, circle. So just that, or go for a walk, or just even down to the cafeteria, like do something. And then I wrote, so I was blogging, because sometimes I had to sort of put words to what was happening. And it was actually really just a tool for me, but I then realized that people were actually really interested in following Jacob. But you can just journal, right? But to put down your thoughts. And then the other thing that I did is my husband and I, we really shared staying in the hospital. So, you know, one night I stayed in the hospital, then my husband. And as a mom, first I felt guilty about that I would leave my child in the hospital, But I also had a daughter, and both of us are from Sweden, so we didn't really have grandparents and other relatives. I am sure that saved me from burnout, because I just got a little bit stir crazy sometimes within those four walls. And for me to just leave, pick up my daughter, spend the evening, sleep in my own bed, the next morning I was ready to go back into children's again. So I don't know if I really intentionally thought about these three things, but I did them. And I think that is one thing I would leave you with. Maybe think about maybe even one thing that you will do for yourself, and you will do better for your child. Like, you know, you're in an airplane, you put the oxygen on yourself first and then on the person next to you. So you have to also carve out something for you, and whatever that is. Maybe it's just sipping your coffee, whatever it is, you know, stick with it, because I think that can ultimately help you. I already mentioned Courageous Parents Network. Feel free to go and check it out. You will find that there are many, many resources, from videos to a blog, and specifically you can search on diagnosis, but you can also search on any topic that you want. We also have an app if you prefer to do it on your phone. And what some families are doing, they actually might be struggling with a decision. And from this website, you can actually share a topic. You always will have it at the top of each topic. And you can share that with your physician and say, you know, should I be thinking about this, or could we discuss this in the next appointment? And that has seemed to be quite good, because also physicians are using Courageous Parents Network. So no must, but it's a free resource that is there for you if you want to. And that was the last that I had. Here is my email. So if any of you after today would like to contact me, it's easy, maria@courageousparentsnetwork.org. And I will be happy to talk to you further after today. And I would also like to thank GRIN2B for bringing up this topic that I think is definitely something that, you know, you all have to think about, and how can you manage that, and preferably avoid that burnout so you can actually be there for your child. So I don't know, I know we're behind schedule, so I think no questions, or yeah, is that, yeah, okay. So, okay, so if, yeah, anyone having any questions? Yes?
You may have,
Wait, let me get this. No.
You may have mentioned it, but what did you say was the disease for your son?
So he had a mitochondrial disease. So yeah, so and it's funny because I think there are some similarities between the diseases. Of course, every patient is different. But when I was running Miracles for Mito, which was a support group for mitochondrial families, we actually had 2 GRIN2B families in our group until they got their GRIN2B, you know, diagnosis. So, and quite similarly presented. And again, mitochondrial disease can also be very wide. Jacob was very impacted, so he was in a wheelchair. He was nonverbal. And, you know, he had severe epilepsy, weak lungs, so very often got, you know, respiratory, a cold could put him at children's, basically. And pneumonias, he had a lot. So that was his diagnosis.
Is it considered like a neurodevelopmental?
Yes. So it's a genetic metabolic disease. And it has no cure. So, and it's also progressive. So if you start somewhere, it will get worse. So when we talked about baseline and burnout and triggers. Jacob definitely got worse over his 10 years. So that is hard as a parent to watch because, you know, he lost skills that he had. There were, of course, moments when, you know, you stabilize and then you were always like, oh my God, thank you, you know, things are better. But if I look at the span of his life, the way he was, I would say from when he was born to 3 was actually quite different from, you know, 3 onwards, because at age 3, he got into status epilepticus. And yeah, his epilepsy just got drastically worse from age 3. So, so yeah, that's what he had. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh yeah, I need to go with the microphone. Yeah.
Thank you. Good job. Can you guys bring up Alyssa's slides? So obviously we're behind. Alyssa had a lovely presentation that she was going to give you guys about how to get involved. I'm going to shorten it. She had to run to the airport. She was worried about her flight. So I'm going to breeze through it and then get to our final remarks. And I want to hear feedback or, you know, if you guys have takeaways. But Alyssa and I talked, and we'll do later on, maybe in the fall, we'll do like a webinar probably on how you can get involved. Okay. So I am going to skip over some things to get to some key points. Let's see. Okay. So Alyssa is a huge champion for advocacy opportunities. We, prior to Alyssa joining, have not had any capacity to take on any of these initiatives. Alyssa, if you hadn't already talked to her or read her bio, she used to work for Every Life Foundation for Rare Diseases, and they do a lot of advocacy work. With the Rare Disease Week is in February, when they go and talk to different legislators about rare disease. And so that is not something prior that we've ever had the capacity to be involved in, although I've been aware of it and known that this is important. So Alyssa is very passionate about this, and she is gonna take this on. She lives in DC, so she's gonna be able to attend Rare Disease Week, and she's gonna be encouraging interested families who maybe live in the area or wanna come. She's gonna be talking about this more in the months to come. So obviously our fundraising events, you know, we never want to pressure anyone to fundraise for us, of course. That's not how we run things here. But that's also how we pay for things, is with fundraising. And certainly now that we have Alyssa, we can focus more on applying for grants that will hopefully get some, and like things like corporate sponsorships. If any of you work for big, important corporations that do sorts of nonprofit grants or sponsorships, you know, talk to Alyssa. That will be something she'll be able to focus on. But otherwise, our fundraising events are our bread and butter. It's how we operate. So we'll do Awareness Week. That's in March, starts March 12th. And people do Facebook fundraisers, or they'll do local events during that week. And then, as I had previously mentioned, in September, we're doing our month-long Be Active for GRIN2B Walk, Run, and Roll. And again, that's just as simple as, like in Chicago, where I live, and Nisha and several other families. Like last year, we just went to the high school where my husband works, and they let us use the football field, and we just walked around the track and had activities and balloons and speeches and music, and And then the individual parents created their fundraising pages, and we raised a lot of money. We had a lot of different families around the world participate last year, and I believe we raised like $63,000 just from that fundraiser. So it's a very popular, an easy way to fundraise, because you're not doing a gala, you're not doing something complicated, you're not doing a golf event, which you can do that if that's what you want to do, but this is a super simple way to fundraise. And then at the end of the year, we always do a big end of the year campaign. Giving Tuesday, if you don't know, is the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. And that's a big, like all the nonprofits are doing fundraising campaigns around that time. And so we're always doing a big end of the year push for donations. So those are good opportunities to get involved. And if you're feeling intimidated, like even if you fundraise and you raise $200, that's helpful. Like, you don't have to do a fundraiser that brings in $10,000. Like, we're not judging anyone. It's not a competition, although sometimes we do have prizes, but it's not a competition. We want it to be fun and not a burden on anyone. So other opportunities we have for you all are, we can help you coordinate regional meetups if you already know families in your area, or if you want to see if there's families in your area. Brittany would be the one to contact. That's one of the reasons why we have our contact registry, is so you could email Brittany and say, hey, does anyone live in Indiana? And she can look up and say, yes, there's 5 families in Indiana, and you're all X. I don't know how technical she gets. She's probably not getting that technical. She's not. She can help put you in touch with families that hopefully live near you, but they may not. There may be some states where there's only one family. It's very, very random. So we can help you organize that, and that can just be something simple as a picnic in the park. Other simple ways to fundraise, we have our merchandise, which a bunch of you guys have already purchased merchandise I saw over the weekend. Facebook fundraisers, company matching. I think in your yellow folder there's a QR code for our fundraising toolkit. So to summarize, we have committees. They're a little bit on hold right now. Alyssa's going to be revamping our committee structure and leading those, which a lot of our committees, we've struggled to keep them going because it's hard to run the organization and the board and then also separately run committees. So now that we have Alyssa, that will help make committees easier. I think the most important and simplest thing you can do if you're feeling overwhelmed by everything is just follow us. If you can't do anything else, just look at our Facebook posts, read our emails, just keep track of the information. You don't have to necessarily do anything. If that's the bare minimum, which is that's good. Just keep up to date with the information. I don't know what Alyssa was going to say about that. That's it. Thanks. So we'll do a more formalized presentation on getting involved with Alyssa later on. But now at this point, I guess I just want to open up the floor if there's any lingering questions, or if anyone wants to share like a takeaway. How is everyone feeling? Do you all just want to like go to sleep? Can we get the other microphone? Yeah, thanks. Oh, Brittany, can you get bracelets? Yeah, if you want to, that's the other thing I forgot to say. Once again, if you want bracelets for an event, get them now before we pack them up. Otherwise, if you change your mind later, we will ship them to you. But yeah, does anyone have any don't know, final thoughts? Like, what do you want to share? Don't be shy.
So on behalf of Keith, who couldn't stay until the end, he is very grateful for you, and big thanks, and for all that you do and all that you have just like selfishly donated. So he just wanted to make sure that someone was thanking you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Thank you. You can sit. Thank you. Yeah, it's my pleasure. Oh, KP?
I would say that having been to the first conference in Atlanta at CFIRV, and then coming to see you in Chicago, and now here, I feel so impressed about how much things have grown, how many more attendees, how much more rigorous science there is, how much more we're offering families, and the support that we're bringing. And so I feel like we've got a great amount of momentum, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and I guess I could say, I think this was already mentioned yesterday in the panel, but I just want to reiterate that it is unique and incredibly helpful that we're also collaborative with each other. And when I say, I mean, definitely with the researchers, that we're very grateful for that collaboration between the researchers amongst themselves and then the researchers with us, but also the different GRIN and GRI organizations. You know, as I think I said, we were the first, but I couldn't do all the things myself. Like, I did not have a nonprofit background. I wasn't like, yes, I know how to do this. I had to literally Google every part of it along the way, or find someone who had already done it and say, how did you do it? Let me copy what you did. But yeah, having CureGrin, and then we also have Jillian here from GRIN Europe and GRIN Netherlands, and because she's a superstar and she has 2 organizations. And then, you know, there's GRI UK, there's GRIN Brazil, there's Austria, there's too many that France, Italy, I don't know, there's more. I can't remember them all. Don't quiz me on that, but we're all talking behind the scenes. You know, a bunch of us were together in London earlier this year for a GRIN Therapeutics meeting, and everyone's just so nice and collaborative and welcoming, and like we all want to work together and not duplicate efforts and just support each other, and it's nice, and it's also very rare. I think I've said this before, but like, unfortunately, the dirty secret in the rare disease community is that sometimes the collaboration is not friendly. Oftentimes there's competition. One group starts and then another group starts and they don't like each other, and then it's just, there's drama. There's unnecessary drama that I saw early on in other disease groups, and I was like, I will walk away if that happens to us. I will just drop this. I am too old for drama. And so I just vowed not to be a part of that, and thankfully everyone else agreed. And it's just really nice. So there's just a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that you guys just wouldn't know, because we're not going to bother you with every little detail, but just know there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. Okay, so I don't want to talk anymore. Someone else say something that is heartwarming or heartbreaking even, or funny, sarcastic. She's thinking. Did anyone learn something surprising? You can go, Nisha.
I did not learn something, well, I did learn lots of things, but that's not what I was going to tell you guys. It was that I have survey anxiety, and so I finally got through all of my delinquent surveys, and I marked on the GRIN survey that urinary accidents were a thing of the past, and Talia has had 3 accidents, including wetting the entire queen-size bed, and we had to borrow a diaper from Jack. So that's where we're at.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I am frequently delinquent on the surveys too. My motivation for surveys tends to be the gift cards. It's October, November, and I'm like, I need some Amazon gift cards for Christmas presents. Let me go to Searchlight and see what's there. And then obviously, you know, sometimes some of the other surveys, not the GRIN registry, which is, you know, no shade to them, but some of the other surveys that come up will have gift card opportunities, but yeah, you should still do them. I like to disassociate while I'm doing them. I just have to go to my happy place while I'm answering no to every question.
They trick you though, because sometimes it gets backwards. Maybe somebody will leave the question. I can run around.
Does anyone have anything surprising they learned, or? No? Oh, we got one.
I'm from the Springs. I just realized that there was a excellence. I mean, she's 18. But that's awesome. I heard rumblings that there was a center close by, but not so close. So that's amazing. I'm so happy for that, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Yeah, the scientists were approachable. Everybody was nice, and that was surprising. And everyone tolerated her noises, and I'm so appreciative. Because I've never been at a place, I've never met anyone with the same diagnosis as her, so this was just amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah.
That is my favorite part about the conference, is like hearing our kids and like seeing them do little things, and I'm like, oh my God, my daughter does that too. You know, I just think it's so endearing.
Yeah.
You worry about your kid making noise. You're doing things that are abnormal to the average parent or the average person. But in here, your kid can run around. No one cares, you know, because that's our life and that's everything. You know, Jack was losing his freaking mind in the hospital, you know, but there was no judgment. There was no shame. There was no, you know, looks or whatever. It was just, okay, that's who he is. That's just a kid with disability. And so it's been nice to be in a group and not feel that way, because when you go outside, you're always being judged, and sometimes by yourself, but it's been nice to not feel that. So make all the noise you want, honey.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's my favorite part about being here, is just, yeah, it's so comfortable being around everyone, and yeah. Oh, hi, sweetie.
Hey.
Are you going to make us cry?
No, not on purpose.
Okay.
I'm Lauren from GRIN.
Oh, it's not.
And I'm sorry. I don't usually talk into a mic. I just wanted to say I'm thankful for, I guess, you guys keeping us a part of the family. Being able to connect with Laura was probably the most amazing part of the conference for me. Having someone that not only lost a child, but with the same diagnosis is just incomparable, I guess, to most of my relationships. But I feel like this is the best community to be a part of because of all the love and the support. and the fact that you trust us to continue fighting for your kids and putting everything we can and all our passion into it to make those connections. So I'm very thankful that I was at least here to connect with her and meet her for the first time after years and years of knowing her over Facebook. That was huge for me. So I just want to say thank you and keeping us a part of your community, though our children are not physically here anymore.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Yeah, I told Laura in a thank you card I wrote her for speaking, I said, we're family for life. So once a grin, always a grin. Yeah. Okay, well, just so we're clear, this is your last chance, because then we're done. Unless you're going to the Wings over the Rockies. I know, I saw Jillian. But I'm just making sure, like, if you're thinking and you're like, should I say something, should I not? You could say it to me privately afterwards. I'm here for a while packing up, and my flight's not till much later. And then I have to talk to the Wings over the Rockies people. Let's confer after this about logistics. Yes, Jillian.
Whenever somebody new comes to the parents' Facebook group, I always say, welcome to the beehive. And this really is a beehive. It's a family, and we're all there for each other. And what Liz has done is truly amazing. And Liz is the reason why I got into advocating, because when we got our diagnosis back in 2015, there was absolutely nothing. We were sent home with 2 copies of the internet. Have fun, come back in 5 years. Maybe we know more. And then I read that famous piece on the Mighty, and I came to the Facebook group, and I found friends, and I found people who were going to the same thing. And although our children may be different, what we're experiencing, the worries we have, the grief we have, that's the same. And also the joy we have. You cannot share with a normal parent if your child gets a swimming diploma after 8 years. The response will be 8 years, well, great, mine had it after a year. But here everybody understands and everybody appreciates the joy you have. So thank you very much, Liz, for building a family for us and being there for us always.
You're welcome. Brittany, you have anything? Brittany, now you're going to come to the stage and do a presentation. Okay, well then, I just wanted to, I'll wrap up then. I didn't make a slide for this. I kind of forgot, but I just want to, oh, yes. You have something, sweetie? No?
Okay, never mind.
Okay. You can tell me later. I just want to remind everyone here and potentially watching from home about our support programs. There again, I know I said this 1,000 times, but there's a sheet in your folder about our support programs. We have patient assistance grants, which I know Diana talked about. And we call it comfort care items. So if your child is in the hospital, or even maybe they're not in the hospital, but they have a severe illness, anything, and you think they need something to brighten their day, we can send them a gift. Usually it's like a very comfy blanket with one of the GRIN2B designs on it. It kind of depends on where you're located. If you live in the United States, I can ship you a blanket. If you live elsewhere, we're probably going to have to ship you something else. But it'll be a very nice, comfy item. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, I don't want your kids to be sick. I don't want to send out comfort care items. But it's going to be unavoidable for some of our kids. So just remember that we have that. And then obviously, I hate to even say it because I don't want to jinx our community anymore, but if your child passes, any child passes, you hear about a child that passes that's not connected to us, We want to know because we want to support that family in any way we can. But obviously, I don't want that to keep happening. So there's definitely programs we have that I wish we didn't have to have, but we have them just in case. So that's it. But I'll be here for a while. I do think they're probably going to start breaking the room down, just so you're aware, but we can keep. Oh, did you want to talk? Do you want to say hi?
Hello.
Thank you all for being here. We do these generally every other year. Obviously, we had a wide gap during COVID times where we didn't do it, even though we wanted to. Generally speaking, it's every other year. Cure Grins is next year in Orlando. I'm sure I will be there for that one, most likely. And then time will tell what we're doing in 2026, sorry. So, but like I said, keep if you're on getting our emails, you will not miss it. So that's a wrap, folks.